Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Irfan Sabir, MLA for Calgary-Buller-McCall, Official Opposition Critic for Justice and Solicitor General. I'm joined by Heather Sweet, MLA for Edmonton-Manning, and Official Opposition Critic for Agriculture and Forestry. Let me begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional lands of Treaty 6 First Nations and also recognize and acknowledge Métis people who share this land with all of us. Earlier we heard that Danielle Smith and her ministers are calling businesses and nonprofits, threatening to cut their funding if they have any vaccine mandates or public health measures in place. That's outrageous, that's irresponsible at a time when Albertans are facing cost of living crisis, healthcare is in crisis, education is in crisis, and Alberta's wage growth is second lowest in Canada. I think Premier and our government should be encouraging businesses to come to Alberta, should be facilitating a business environment that is welcoming instead of threatening them to cut their funding if they believe in science or if they have any public health measures in place. I come from a constituency, Calgary-Buller-McCall, where we have 99% vaccination rate. In fact, we have 99% vaccination rate in the entire Northeast quadrant. And now we have a premier in office who thinks that hydroxychloroquine and those kind of meds cure COVID-19 better than vaccine. We have lost 5,000 fellow Albertans, and I think that kind of rhetoric coming from this government is very dangerous, very irresponsible. And that's why from day one, we have asked for a science advisory table, independent science advisory table, that can analyze data, that can analyze evidence, and recommend public health measures to deal with this pandemic. So I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, so questions in person? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Sabir. Morris Gamble with Global News. How many businesses have you been contacted by business and nonprofits? And just wondering about how common this is for these businesses to be contacting you with their concerns.
I think we just learned today when Premier admitted that Danielle Smith and ministers are calling businesses and nonprofits. We heard about the Arctic Games, that they were threatened that unless they drop mandate, their $1.2 million funding will be at risk. The point is that ministers of Crown and Premier should not be threatening businesses and nonprofits with government power and public money if they have any public health measures in place. That is irresponsible. That is recipe to chase investment away. That is recipe to chase businesses away from this province. And it's also harms our reputation as a province that believes in science. And that's a forward-looking province that creates opportunities and provide opportunities for business and investment.
Right. I don't think it's any surprise that they instituted these changes, but we were just wondering if there have been concerns raised by the government's decision and their views on vaccination and things like that. Have you heard from businesses? Have you talked about, maybe not even necessarily relating to today's announcement, but was there concerns that have been raised to you that you're aware of? And just, we're trying to get a handle on if this is a concern amongst businesses that you've heard, or do you expect to hear from businesses?
We have heard from businesses with many concerns, and those concerns revolve around Danielle Smith musing about Sovereignty Act, saying that unvaxxed are the most discriminated people. But in particular, if we talk about Sovereignty Act, businesses, even Calgary Chamber of Commerce has taken a stance against it. Indigenous leaders, Treaty 7, 6, 7, 8, they have taken a stance against it. And we are hearing from businesses that it's creating huge uncertainty for them. It is chasing investment away from this province. It's it's impacting their decision with respect to future investment in this province. We are certainly hearing from the businesses on these lines, in particular what Premier is proposing her so-called Sovereignty Act. But what we heard today from the Danielle Smith and Danielle Smith and the ministers are calling businesses and nonprofits, I think that kind of shows that how far they can go to push for their own rhetoric and the theories, conspiracy theories they believe in.
Okay, but you haven't heard anything yet from businesses on the vaccination, but you expect that you would?
We have heard from businesses on Sovereignty Act a whole lot.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now go to questions on the line. First question goes to Dean Bennett.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dean, I can.
You've been a cabinet minister. What's it like for if an individual Albertan, I mean, cabinet ministers, they have a lot of power, and if they start phoning people directly, and if they just ask you something nicely, oh, could you do something for me? Does that contain a hint of intimidation, given that how much power that they actually hold?
Government, cabinet ministers certainly hold a lot of power, and they are exclusively responsible for spending and allocating public dollars. For a government of the day to call businesses, to call nonprofits, and threatening them that if they don't drop mandates, if they don't drop public health measures, their funding will be cut, it is serious. It should not be happening, but when government of the day will call an organization a nonprofit, I think that's outrageous.
Did you have a follow-up, Dean?
Yeah, what do you think about the fact that they don't want to bring in a law on this because they want to think it through, but in the meantime, they're going to go through the back door and just start making calls to create a de facto human rights change?
I think in other words, Alberta is calling that if you believe in science, if you believe in public health measures, your funding will be cut, you will be discriminated against, and that's clear-cut intimidation and harassment, plain and simple.
Anything else, Dean?
It's good, thanks.
Okay, we'll do one more pass for questions either in person or on the line. And seeing none, that's all for today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much for watching, and to learn more, check out albertasfuture.ca.